Good morning, good evening to all of my staffing and retention followers out there. Hey, it's Chris coming to you live with another video. Focus on staffing and retention, building the dream team that you need to be successful. Let's make sure that your dream, your baby, your company is on the right path. And to get there, we all know from all our previous videos, everything in life that you want to do is based on the people you hire to lead your dream to help you get to those goals. So, we're going to talk today about some specific activities for you to perform on a weekly, bi weekly, or monthly basis. These are called touch points. I think it's really important. A lot of companies have one-with-ones and touch points and kind of let me check on progress on different things that they schedule and they try and stay on track. And those are all very well and good. And I applaud companies who have those scheduled and built in there. But I want to look at it in a different way a little bit. Not only do I want to make sure we understand that these are sacred times, we also want to make sure we understand what those touch points should consist of to get the most out of them in order to build a more positive and loyal team who's going to drive your vision and help you reach your goals in the small business world. So let's talk specifically about what that touch point is. So we want them to be scheduled. So if you're the owner of an organization and you have 2 or 3 managers and 20 to 30 employees, whether it's in manufacturing or sales or production, whether it's a grocery store with 15 night crew managers, or a beauty salon with 6 chairs and you just got people who contract with you, whatever that level of responsibility is, let's make sure those get on the calendar. And we want to use them as that opportunity. So if I'm the boss and I have a liquor store and I have 7 employees, they're going to directly do those touch points with me on a regular schedule. I strongly encourage bi-weekly because what happens is if you try and do it every single week, it's too easy to just blow through them without really getting a lot of thought in there. Because think about it, you want to reflect on what I was working on and contemplate a game plan for what I'm going to be working on in order to stay on target. If I'm doing these touch points every single week, I'm barely getting through 3 or 4 days, and all of a sudden I'm talking about next week, and maybe I'm still trying to wrap up this week. Things happen in the real world. Things fall behind. Production happens. Machinery breaks down. People get sick. Managers aren't available. Many things happen. So a bi-weekly touch point, I think, is a great way to do it. At least once a month at the minimum. Bi-weekly is recommended. Every week or every other month, not recommended by me because it's just too big of a gap or it's too close to the gap. So we want to make sure we get these on the calendar. So if I'm the owner of a company, let's say I own a jelly manufacturing company and I make the best grape jelly on the planet at Chris's Jelly Fountain. We're going to call it Chris's Jelly Fountains. And I've got about 20 employees in the warehouse. Do I have managers who help me manage that? So I have hired someone to kind of be my supervisor of that shift. Then I'm going to expect them to do this activity with those employees, and then they will do that activity with me. I may sit in with them, and I strongly encourage you to. If you've got a sub-level or a mid-level manager, you're going to voluntarily sit in those. You're not always going to tell them. You're just going to show up. It's open-ended. There should never be any fear from any employee or mid-level manager that the boss wants to be involved in this touch point because they're scripted, they're on the schedule, they're positive interaction for both people to really engage on the business and where we're at and where we're going. So if oh, Chris wants to sit in my meetings with my jelly manufacturing team, right? And if they take that as a negative, then I'm not doing my job because it should be looked on as a positive opportunity for growth for both of us, the company and the employee. So back on the rain track. Once in a while I get on, sorry, I bumped my laptop. Look at that. Things are rocking. There's not an earthquake in California. I just kicked my desk. So we want to get back on topic here. First and foremost, they're scheduled and they're scripted and they're a contract, which means it's an obligation. The employee needs to be involved in that. So don't just say, hey, every Tuesday at 2, you're meeting me, right? This is a contract. We're going to have that conversation with our team and we're going to make sure they understand every other Tuesday between 1 and 1:30 or 1:40, whatever that length of time is we agree on, we're going to meet up. It's paid time while they're on the clock. So you're going to schedule that shift so they can be covered. They can come see you. We're not going to ask anyone to do this on their time off. Whether off on vacation, whether not at work, this is a paid activity. We want to encourage them to look at it as a positive opportunity. It's got to be on their calendar. Everybody's got a smartphone. If anybody tells you they don't keep a calendar, they are liars or they are disorganized and you probably shouldn't hire them. They should have a calendar, whether it's company provided or their personal calendar. They should have key things in there. Hey, we're doing inventory on Tuesday. I've got my meeting with my boss, my touch point on Friday. Super excited, right? You should also have it in your calendar. If you have a mid-level supervisor, they should have everyone's there. And then you should also have them there so you can pop in and be involved in those conversations. Remember, the more the team understands the win-win-win for everybody, the more likely they're to follow the dream without question, and the more likely you're going to reach your goals. So they're going to be scripted. and they're going to be a contract between two. What do I mean when I say that? Here's what I see some companies doing. They do these one-with-ones, and it just becomes a laundry list of things they're doing wrong. Hey, did you change over the liquor store's end cap? Oh, did you get your truck serviced? Why didn't you do this? Hey, you had too much overtime on Tuesday. Like, it's just ding, 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 right? People are just like, oh, you put me on the defensive. This is not an opportunity for corrective action. There's a whole different video on that. We can talk about it later and how we follow those progressions. This is an opportunity on checkpoint. So we're going to pick three. Limit this to achievable goals, right? Three activities that me as the employer or the supervisor can hold a conversation so they know, hey, if I'm in manufacturing and you're in charge of the jelly lids at my company, we're going to want to talk about how the jelly lids are going. Did we reach our goals this last week? What are our goals next week? What's hindering that, right? We're checking my everyday task conversation, make sure that's going smoothly. I'm also looking at my other tasks, right? Jelly lid person is also in charge of maintenance. So what's our maintenance schedule? How's that going? Right? What's my production numbers? What's my shrink? There are specific three categories. Don't bombard them with 12 things. You could probably sit down and write 12 list of things you'd like to discuss with every employee in a touch point, but this is a touch point, not a hug point, right? We don't have all day. We're going to cover our three key initiatives as the employer or the supervisor with our key employee. Now, this is a contract between two parties. It's bilateral, which means it's also their opportunity to have these discussions with us open and freely without fear of reparation, right? We're not here to pick on anyone, but we have to open our ears, close our mouth. We have two ears, one mouth, use them proportionally. So after I go through my 15 or 20 minutes engaging, getting feedback on those jelly lids, on my sales targets, on what happened with the production machine last week and what's your game plan moving forward, right? Are you aware of the holidays coming up? So did we order enough lids for that machine, right? After I document that conversation, and we're going to talk about the documentation shortly, I'm going to hand it over. All right, it's your turn. We're going to talk about key factors. Now, we're going to lead the conversation because most employees are generally quiet and they just don't want to engage too much. So we're going to help them engage by asking open-ended questions. First question, I'm going to pause. Who can think of the first thing you should ask your employees? That's right. It's about pay. Because at the end of the day, we hire someone and we say, we're going to hire you and we're going to pay you $23.50 an hour. And here's your specific task we're going to have you do. And we've discussed in previous videos, they need to clearly understand what are my daily tasks, what are my responsibilities, and what are my long-term goals. When they know those things, they motivate that employee to not feel lost, like they're just bouncing around from one thing to the other. If you have employees, you go, how it's going? Like, I don't know. It's like chaos out there. On Tuesday, I'm doing this. Friday, I'm doing that. Hey, shame on you as the employer, the boss or the supervisor. You need to help clean that up so they know their specific task, their specific goals, and their long-term goals. It's short-term, long-term. Payroll is the number one thing because that's our contract agreement. They're doing all this for me to help drive our dream. In return, I'm paying you and I'm providing you benefits and I'm making sure you've got some sort of retirement or focus points or helping you establish that, right? So first and foremost, let's talk about your pay. Last Friday was payday. How was your pay? Do you have any questions on pay? That's okay. We're going to walk through it, right? Do they understand how much they're being paid? How much is hourly? What's their overtime? What drove that overtime? How is it represented on our pay stub? When do they get paid? Are they having any challenges understanding their paycheck? Because remember, you're talking to not just them, not just Bob, the jelly lid guy who's helping run this production, but Bob's family, Mrs. Bob and Bob's three kids and Bob's pet. They're all part of that conversation, even though they're not with you. They're in his heart, right? So what does that mean? If Bob can't walk away from that meeting and discussing his pay with you, make sure, oh yeah, my boss really cares. I didn't understand how this FICA was done. I didn't understand why my Social Security taxes were so high. Cool, he explained that to me, showed me the breakdown, the difference between net pay, gross pay, what's going into my benefits, right? And he does it all the time. So Bob becomes an expert on what? The contract he signed with us. His agreement to work for us and provide us for these goals. Our contract, we provided him to make sure that he understands how he's paid, when he's paid, and to understand how that goes into the big picture. And we talk about that every single touch point. Bob's an expert. Bob's wife's an expert. People are talking about our jelly company in really positive lights, which drives more customers for us because, oh, Bob works at that jelly company. He loves it. They're really cool down there. I'm only going to borrow that jelly because I hear really good things about that company. Good quality, good product, but great people, right? That's going to drive sales because everyone who hears your name, who sees it on Instagram, who reads about it on social media, or who just bumped into Bob on the street is a consumer and customer of ours. So Bob needs to be an expert on his pay. Bob needs to be an expert on his benefits. If you offer medical, you as a manager, we talked about it before, no excuses, need to be an expert on what our options are for our employees. Never say the phrase, I'm not sure, you need to call HR. Okay? That is not an acceptable answer for a manager. Now, it is okay to say, let's call HR. I'm not sure. Let's dial HR together. Let's schedule some time together, that first time with HR, to help them be comfortable with developing that relationship. It is not okay to pass the buck of responsibility and knowledge to someone else and just hope it got done. Okay, so we're going to talk about their pay. We're going to talk about their benefits. We're going to make sure they understand. We're then going to say, third category, right? Because we want three things. Hey, what can I do for you? Concerns or needs. And Bob might say, hey, I'm a little concerned about the speed of the jelly machine and getting the lids on. It seems like it's speeding up, and I think it's causing some shrink. I'm seeing a lot of jars broken. You need to make a note of that. Let's find out what happened to that with Bob. Hey, Bob, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to get back to you. Key point, timeout. When that happens, write it down. Write key point next to it on your notepad. You owe Bob an answer within 24 hours. I don't want anyone ever to say, I told my manager about it in our touch point last month, but I'm sure he's going to get back to me. I haven't heard anything yet, right? No, if it was important to Bob, even if it's not important, even if it's some minor thing that you're like, okay, Bob just likes to complain. Never say that. What I'm saying is, even if you don't feel that was important, if it was important enough for Bob to bring up during our touch point, it's important and you need to get an answer within 24 hours, because this empowers Bob with the ability to know that my manager listens to me, my manager cares, and my concerns are their concerns. That's a winning philosophy. So pay, its benefits, its open concerns or topics. Bob, what can I do for you? What can I do to help things be better, to make it better? You're going to do this and you're going to make some notes, and I'm going to show you what it should look like. It's simple. We're not going to do a complicated form. It's going to be a simple graph, which I'm going to post for you. Top part's going to be my notes, things we discussed. It's going to be open, and you're going to fill this out during our meeting about things we're working on, our goals. And then the other part is Bob's part, right? So, hey, Bob, let's talk about your pay. I'm not going to write down a specific pay on a piece of paper. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to write down questions Bob may have, follow up. It's a contract. And then Bob and I will both sign it on the bottom. It's dated and signed, and we had this conversation this time. Not a got you. Bob should never feel like I'm going to get in trouble. Right? This is just us documenting so I don't forget what Bob's needs are and what Bob's questions are and the value of Bob. And Bob doesn't forget the value of the company and what we bring with pay and benefits and relationships and that whole team win-win atmosphere. Then Bob keeps copy, I keep copy, it goes into my file. I'm never putting down personal things. I'm never putting down HR things. I'm never putting down comments about other employees. Hey, Bob, I appreciate that. If something comes up about another employee, this is not the right form. Let's schedule some time later. We'll schedule it immediately at a later date, later place. Keep the touch point specific to the topics on the schedule. Don't let it become a free-for-all, or I'm going to use a bad word here, a bitch session, right? This is not an opportunity for people to just lay out all their complaints for the last 6 months of the company or about so-and-so's bad shoe choice. Keep it on script, keep it professional, keep it fun, right? And keep it to an open win-win form of conversation. Make sure that Bob sees the value in what Bob does and that we see the value in what Bob does, and also that Bob knows that we care. When our relationships are clearly documented and our employees understand what their part of the big machine is, what they do on a daily generates the top line for us, helps us get to our goals, how they're valued by us to achieve these goals because we care enough to listen for understanding. And we also follow it quickly, so there's no big concerns. We have a good relationship. Bob becomes a better employee. All of our employees are watching us at all times, right? So treat everyone the same. Schedule these meetings. If you have a meeting with a big district manager, or you have a meeting with your accountants, or you have a meeting with a broker, or one of your customer leaders at a store, and you're trying to get more space, and you don't feel well, you wake up sick, and you call them and say, I just can't be there. I think I've got the flu. I don't want to give it to you. You would reschedule that meeting. These touch points are the number one key success factor for any business from 2 to 200 employees. Having these conversations scripted so they know every other Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I sit down with my supervisor or my boss or my employer and I have this conversation so they can be thinking about this. That's the place for, hey, I had a payroll question. I don't need to call my boss now. I'll see him on Tuesday during our meeting. I'll make a note of it. We build that relationship, open communication. They are spending less time texting you every time they have a problem because they have the scripted meeting and they have a better understanding of what we're doing, and they trust you because you're following up and you're making it important to you, because even if you don't feel well, you're rescheduling. You're calling me and Bob. Bob, I woke up this morning, I'm not feeling well, but you're important to me. So I'd like to reschedule to Thursday at 2. Does that work for you, Bob? It can't be Bob, meet me Thursday at 2 instead. It's always a question because we have to show them we appreciate them, we value their time, right? They've agreed to do certain tasks for us. I can't just throw last minute things at them and say, I'm changing it to Tuesday, Bob. I'm changing it to Thursday, Bob, right? That's not how we build relationships. That's how we build distrust and fear. It's a positive interaction. It's scripted. It's a win-win that we both have part of, and it's documented and signed. When we do these things, our teams are going to be better, and they're going to help you achieve your goals and your dreams because you have the right people in the right place. Your retention will go up. You'll have people lining up to work for you because you have a positive work group who cares about your company and your success because they know you care about them and their success. That's what I've got for today. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, leave comments in the chat box. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a fantastic, safe day out there. Stay positive. This is your business, and your people make the difference. Have a great day.